Donna.
And I'm Michael.
And we're the Feckners. We're ordinary people. In fact, we're just teachers. And we've been led on an extraordinary journey.
Life has presented us with some very unusual opportunities and synchronicity over the past 10 years. So despite the risks involved, we've embraced them all fully. And our glass is now overflowing with many, many possibilities.
We never know what happens next.
So why not?
Take a chance.
Donna, how are you?
I'm good.
Now,
I'm looking forward to talking today because it's probably the main reason we started this podcast.
Yeah, I think it is. And look, we weren't going to do one today, but after last week and our wonderful talk with Franco, we thought that this week we would have a chat about synchronicity because we've spoken about how many things have just happened without us really doing too much about it.
And that's why we're here telling all these stories, and that's why we have a movie, that's why we have a couple of books, and that's why we have all these amazing tales to tell.
And the wonderful relationship with Vignacourt in France on the battlefield.
And Childers in Queensland.
And all the things. So stay tuned today because we are going to tell you some amazing things, and I hope it helps put the story together even more. Now, Donna, what are you drinking today?
Well, today... Wait.
Oh, again.
There. That's the noise I was waiting for. It's a really warm afternoon this afternoon. So I'm having a beautiful glass of Perrier Jouet from Epinay in Champagne.
Epinay is one of our favourite places,
Beautiful
isn't it?
spot. Epinay and Rem have the best champagnes.
And it's not far from Paris, really. It's just down a little bit, going out a little bit to the east and a little bit to the south, so to speak.
Well, I don't know. I just follow the bubbles. It doesn't really affect me.
Well
So,
done.
à votre santé.
Enjoy that little...
Merci, I will.
Oh, it's nice. I can see you just getting it down, Donna.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Well, you just start talking.
I'm
Michael,
starting
because
to
that's
talk.
what you love to do.
Now, look, let's start at the very beginning when we talk about this word synchronicity. Big word, but it's really important to us and we're believers in it. Obviously, it all started with those dreams, Donna, as we spoke about.
Yeah, for those boys to appear, and they chose Alicia because I wasn't ready to receive any messages, so they knew who they were talking to, and she readily welcomed them at the end of her bed, and that story has led us to where we are now, 10 years down the track.
And it led to the discovery of Cameron Mackenzie and James Hurahan.
Who I didn't even know existed, and it also gave me a chance to speak to my mum before she passed. Even though she was born in 21, she wasn't around when the boys went, but she had heard of their stories, and she saw my other great uncle return in a bad state with PTSD. So she had little memories of him as a young kid growing up.
And it started us on the journey. And then, of course, we have our wonderful son, Ryan, at those grave sites on one of the first visits that was made there when he was visiting around. And he happened to be there, Donna.
On the anniversary of Mackenzie's death. So, major synchronicity. And like we've said all the way along, every time we go to shut this story and shut the book, something else happens that keeps it alive. So I think we're just relying on universal time, which is driving me crazy because it is 10 years now, waiting for something major to happen so we can share our story with everyone on the screen. These synchronistic happenings have kept us interested in the story and alive. So if nothing else, this may be a lesson for any of you beautiful people out there listening, that maybe sometimes we're just too busy to see the signs and to hear the signs. It's when you give up that they appear even stronger. The more you ignore them, the stronger they become. And I truly believe that we will get this story up on the screen, and there will be more boys identified, and there will be people realising that they have a connection to not just World War I, but other altercations that our Australian boys and women have been involved in.
You've hit the nail on the head there, Donna, because you're dead right, as you normally are.
Yes, I'm not surprised.
No, not surprised at all. But, things happen for reasons, and I think, as you said, if you stop and be quiet sometimes and take notice of what's happening around you, you can actually put it all together.
There's also a lot of poo-poo people out there who'll say, oh, don't be ridiculous, here she goes again, or here he goes again, oh yeah, la, la, la. We're here to say that we are very proud of how far we've come.
Yes.
And the people we've met.
And all these little snippets that have gone together to create this story. You couldn't write it, could you?
You have. I have written it in two forms, but I think the big story for me is we're really busy. Everybody's busy in their daily lives, and other things happen in our head, but the universe is constantly trying to bring us to task and to make us aware of where we should be and what we should be addressing, and that's this story.
It is. Now, Donna, obviously, the next little bit of thing came along when we saw the Channel 9 program, the program where Channel 7. Channel 7. I'm sorry there, Channel 7.
Channel 9's my friends.
With
now,
Ross
Channel
Coulthart
7,
and Max Utrecht involved from Channel 7 Network, Kerry Stokes Network, who had that wonderful story of the Lost Diggers of Vignacourt. We just happened to watch it one evening. We were taking a tour the next year. That happened early in the year, and in April we were about to take a tour, and we said on the spot, we've got to go and have a look at this place. It sounds interesting.
We were only taking a tour because of the boys appearing in the dream, and because I'd found research and had retraced their steps, and I had been there and felt that connection, which is, you can't put words to that, and then we wanted to share those experiences with anybody else who may have had somebody who fought on the Somme, and that was why we were going.
That was our first tour, yeah.
Presented us with the picture of the story of the Lost Diggers collection, and it started our relationship with the beautiful town of Vignacourt.
We knew nothing about Vignacourt. It was out of the way, really, for us to go there because
it's out of the way for most people.
Yeah.
What I'm saying to you, don't make it out of the way. It is such a beautiful little spot, and it has amazing stories, especially for Australia.
And it started that long ago. And when we got there, the kids we'd managed to talk to Lucille, and the kids had made us, as we've said before, Enzo cookies, and they met us in the barn where the Tuileries had taken the photograph. They talked to us about it. They took us to see the old railway station where some of the photos in the War Memorial had been put on display. And all of a sudden we had this desire to be part of it, I think, didn't we?
Yeah.
And
but that wasn't synchronistic. Sometimes you can't just sit back and expect the universe to give you everything. We worked really hard. We worked hard on developing that relationship, and we're so proud of our friends who call us friends in Vignacourt. We worked hard on researching some of those soldiers. We worked hard on networking with Australians who wanted to go over and visit this little tiny town that nobody else wanted to know about. But having since done that, it is now on the memory trail, isn't it?
A memorial trail, the trail of remembrance.
On the
nobody
song. Wanted to know about this little place, but this house and the Tuileries couple made it on the map now. But their story also.
And it had only just been there since those photographs had been found, and there was a lot of things that took place there. But on that visit also, Donna, that's where you first fell in love with Epinay.
Yes, I did.
You did. And the big meringues at Epinay. And we
I didn't notice the meringues. I didn't notice the bubbles.
But that was the first time we'd been to Epinay, and it became part of our tourist trail. But I remember coming home from that trip, and obviously we then planned another, took some more Aussies there. We started our barbecue, our Aussie barbecue in the barn. I remember the first year we nearly burnt it down. And the teams were part of all that.
Where we would bring along Australian beer and some kangaroo
sausages and things
at one point. And then eventually our son and our beautiful daughter-in-law, Jilly, were married in Champagne. So everything has led us to this point. And if you look back, and like I said, if you have 10 minutes, look back in the past 5 years of your life, nothing has happened by mistake. The only things that have happened or have not happened have been because you've been too busy.
And you haven't taken the moment.
I'm just encouraging you just to step back, and it might seem stupid, and people will laugh at you, and people will think that you're totally up yourself and that you've got these pie-in-the-sky dreams. Follow your gut. Follow the words inside your head, because it's worth it.
Take the time, and Donna, take a chance.
Yeah, the chances don't always pay off though, so don't expect that it's all going to work out in the timeline that you wish
It could be
it to happen.
It could be just for you though to become part of the story. It could be. It could
For
be.
me, it was to give me a connection to family because both of my parents have gone and I have very few family members left, and it was a wonderful opening for me to share with my kids as I grow older that they have a connection to the Somme and to these wonderful people.
We came home, we ran a number of tours and lots of Aussies got involved, and we got a bit of interest from Childers, didn't we?
Yes, we did. And my girlfriend, my friend Lizzie, lived there, and we'd gone up to visit Liz a couple of times, and at no point did we say, oh, Childers is going to be involved, but synchronistically, Childers, Liz is very involved in her hometown, her and her family, and she told us some of the stories, and then we were to discover that Childers had the greatest number of enrolments that had signed up for World War One, the greatest number of deaths, had a cannon presented to them after World War One, and are very instrumental around Anzac and Armistice Day because of the sacrifice of their local boys. And my boys had come from Imbil and around that region in the Mary Valley, so they weren't too far away. So in that region of Bundaberg, it became a central point that we hadn't even thought about. So we just went up to visit my friend, and
of course
he gave another chapter, and then we came across
the Sea Brothers,
some of the families whose ancestors
who had been, they were in the book, but we were able to identify them with the Australian War Memorial.
Who had casually bought a book at Big W for Christmas, opened up the page, and there was great-grandmother.
And I remember saying, oh my God, we're in Childers. Liz comes from Childers. We just happened to be here, and this is what's come from it. And then, and as I said, we took some people from Childers on tours, and one couple I remember who were there, we took them to see where their grandparents had been on the battlefields. And it just happened to be that 100 years previously, they had both been on the battlefield. Both grandfathers had been on the battlefield, unbeknownst to one another. Not knowing each other, but they had been on that battlefield together, separated probably by a couple of 100 metres. And here again we were...
He's 100 years later, and their great-niece and great-nephew, or great-grandchildren.
And it was quite unbelievable.
Married.
Yep.
Another lovely lady from Bundaberg, her granddad had fought in Pozières or near Pozières in Murdering Trench. Was that
no, Trench? It was Sausage Valley, I think it was.
So one of the greatest things we like to do in our tours is to take people to that actual spot
where they were,
where their ancestor fought or was last reported to be alive. So, because I believe many of those spirits are still trapped there.
I think Jennifer's granddad had lost a leg at this particular spot, and we were able to take her via GPS to the exact trench line.
Which is another buzz because the whole GPS
where this all happened 100 years previously, and she was quite emotional, and so emotional, in fact.
Well, it was she would agree that it was sort of funny in a way that she was so emotional and overcome by standing where he'd been that she went to get on the bus with us and nearly got hit by a bus on the road, so like 5 metres away from where her granddad had lost his leg. So we laughed about that, and we just said, oh, your granddad's having a bit of a go at you now. He's making you realise this is where he was.
And lots of those stories that, we've come up with many people that we've taken away that we've found their stories, and we've been able to tell wonderful things that, again, they didn't know, but it all made sense and has picked up from there.
And nor did we. And so we've just added all of these stories to our little dossier, and we have 1,000 of them now of people who have felt that moment of connection. And if people came home of an afternoon with us on the bus and weren't crying or weren't agog with what had just occurred, we weren't doing our job. So we were privileged to do that.
To be all part of it.
And to touch, their hearts and their whole family tree. So we loved doing that for a couple of years. So synchronistically, we were led to these places as well through other people's requests.
And I think moving on from there, the teens, then we got involved with the teenagers in Vignacourt, and we helped with Elsa McCallum to bring them to Australia, and they came here to Australia. And again, we were on a plane going to meet the Prime Minister, as we'd said before, and sitting beside me was a gentleman, and he was a documentary maker. And that led us into the whole movie story, because he was taken by the whole thing. And I could have sat anywhere on the plane, but I sat next to him, and he took a love and interest in the story.
And then he rang us back 12 months later and said, look, I'm still serious about this, because we put that to bed, and this is what happens constantly. And it's gotten us to this point now, you know, meeting David and meeting Franco and Rod and Shirley and all these wonderful people who loved the story, and we never gave up. And like I said before, when we did, something happened synchronistically to make us rethink throwing it away.
And he and Jihan were able to really get the story started.
Yeah,
and
it got us excited because we were totally agreeing with it all. Not that we are superb professionals at movie making yet, but we had no idea that the story we had written had such a feeling amongst people. So we've just followed on for that. And look, we may die and it may not be up, but I'm not counting on that.
No, it still continues, Donna, right to this day. We know that. Now, obviously, we then decided along the track there, after a whole lot of comings and goings, we decided to take a team to the Somme and get started on this whole movie business. And we'd had a barbecue the year before at Vignacourt, and we came across a gentleman who looked after some of the ceremonial stuff on the Somme, and he happened to have a house in Corby, which was just down the road from Vignacourt.
Beautiful little spot if you ever get a chance.
Lovely spot. Corby is this little place with a beautiful big abbey, beautiful place, a lovely.
It's St Nicholas's finger.
Yes, a lot of bits and pieces of Saint Cyr.
The Frenchies love that.
And
I love that.
Through him again, we managed to get to stay in Corby for a month or so, a couple of months, for a couple of years in his home. He rented it out to us, and we were able to bring the guys from Australia to France, and that's when we first started working.
That's where we wrote the original script. That's also the Redery that we went to buy the original costuming
for the wonderful teaser and that's on the website.
And it was right beside the river of the Somme, so we did a lot of filming beside that river. And if you look at our trailer, in the greenery section where there's a lot of trees, that's beside that river. Very, very special part of the world.
And Jihad and Paul were fantastic in getting us started. They were just fantastic to get us started. They led us along the way. But again, we only found them because of sitting on that plane, Donna, and we got there. Now, we started, as I said, regularly going to and from Vignacourt, and as we approached the centenary years, things got a little bit heated up, and they decided that they're going to build a museum in Vignacourt. And obviously the glass plates and everything and the photographs, they needed a home, and we're better than to do it. So through a lot of coming and going, they decided to build a museum there, and we were lucky to be staying in Corby, and we helped pull down the barn, the old barn.
That was really special.
The back of it. And I remember Laurent Marouz was there one day with us while we were doing a few things like that. And that's, again, synchronistically, what do we find in the barn?
Some glass plates.
Up in the attic of the house, the original Tulia house, we found some glass plates. A number of them, again, that had been collected and found.
No doubt, I suspect there's more up in the attic.
It could be anywhere.
That's why Photos in the Attic is the title of the story of the movie and the book. There are others up there, but nobody has actually gone digging. And I always remember hearing you and Laurent upstairs going, "Oh my God, mon Dieu, what are we going to do with these photos? I've not seen these before. This is like Christmas." So no doubt there'll be some more there, and
it was like treasure.
The condition that they were in.
Oh, it was like treasure, and I can imagine. My mind was unbelievable, as it always is, but my mind saw Louis and Antoinette packing these away up in the attic and for some reason these slipped down behind where they'd been for over 100 years.
Been drying
the team that found the ones originally, Ross and Max and Laurent from Channel 7 that had found them, the team, these were still there, and it was truly remarkable.
And like we've said in all of our episodes in our podcast, we will never take away from what they achieved.
No.
Because ours is a different journey from theirs.
It was a wonderful start, though. It helped lead us.
And they did an amazing
And we've
job.
been able to continue to build the relationship, which I think is what we have focused on.
Yeah, we're the people. So we've gone in and worked with the community and supported the teams, and we're still working with the museum now and with the village now. So we're very proud of that, along with our relationship with the Caves of Now, which is 10 kilometres away from Vignacourt. So all of that has been really special.
So the movie was moving along in parallel with a whole lot of other things. We were touring. We were
it's still moving
discovering.
in parallel.
We were discovering things. We had our fingers in quite a few pies. We were introduced to Phil Avalon.
Yes, lovely man.
And Phil helped us along the way incredibly with Rod and Shirley.
And I would, like I said before, all of the people that have been involved in the story have played their part.
And we believe,
it to where it is now.
And I believe that also, for me, it's been the journey. It's not something that we were able to design, but something that happened, and it all has built to where it is.
So I would suggest that's another life story for you. If you have a dream, you will need other people to help you make it happen. And you will need to step down some days and forget your ego and listen to others who know what they're doing. But don't give up. And when you get further down the track, like we both are now, hold on to the parts that are really important to you, because it is your dream after all. Don't give up on it, but be prepared that it's not going to happen when and how you expect it to.
So there was start, stop, and we sort of just kept going because we believed in it. So we moved through, and then we were given David Lightfoot.
Yeah, he was a true blessing.
And I think it's no secret that his military history was a highlight that actually helped grow the script too, didn't it?
If I look at the script after David's input and before, there's a huge difference. It is real and it's raw. And I know many of the scenes that include Bill, our major character, who David sort of personified at the end there. They are real, fragile. They are confronting. And I could never have gone there without David's input.
No, and the stories
I'm
that
just
he
a
was
prep
able.
teacher. I don't know about.
But we're no ordinary people, darling.
Well, I don't know about having to face battles and having people's skin and hair on your body because of explosions, and having to pick it off and trying to come to terms with whose blood is this on my arm? Is that mine or is this somebody else? So David's. He was amazing. He was amazing.
And I'm sure also, in the terms of synchronicity and the big plan, his leaving us, his being taken, very sadly, has probably led us in another direction. We're not quite sure yet, but it's certainly led us to Franco.
I haven't forgiven David, and he knows that. And I know he's just trying to get all the ducks in a row somewhere else to make sure that this happens.
So the movie's still wandering along. We were introduced very early in the piece to Noah's, and a wonderful man again by the name of Gilles Prilot, who are an archaeologist, and Matthew. Again, they introduced us to Noah's, of which we again took on because it was so close, and we had a belief that the soldiers that had been to Vignacourt had to have gone there as well. It was so close.
There was an opportunity for cross-referencing there to give the boys in Vignacourt, the nameless boys in Vignacourt, some sort of identification, and we're still in the midst of all of that research. But it was also an opportunity to say, hey, Australians, post-COVID, there are some gems of gold in the northern part of France. If you are interested in retracing the steps of your ancestors, or you're just interested in Australian military history, especially regarding World War One, these places are unbelievable.
And Noah's is it really is as good a story as Vignacour.
From medieval times right up until the World War.
Vignacour, I don't know whether people realise, but Vignacour, there's no names associated with any of the photographs, so it's all a bit of a hit and miss trying to identify them. But with Naors, every soldier's signature is named with a battalion and dated. So therefore...
And often given a geographical place too.
There's
like Tom of Sydney says hello to Mum, like those sorts of beautiful little messages.
So where they came from. So again, it allowed us, as part of this journey, to be able to start to link a few. And there's only a couple, but we've linked them.
And the difficulty of all of that too is that the signatures were done in pencil and consequently they are disappearing because of the condensation in the caves and the way that people rub their fingers along them trying to touch, and I get that. And the synchronistic part of that story is that our beautiful daughter is now working on her master's with Melbourne University, trying to help the caves come up with ideas on how to maintain these signatures so that they can stay there for future generations.
Because the last time we were there, they had degraded over the time.
But they're doing their best to try and keep them alive. But for us, when we were initially doing all of these tours to Nau and Vignacour, our daughter had no interest.
Nothing whatsoever.
Couldn't care less. Now she's over there. So there's a synchronicity.
As we speak this afternoon, she's just in France now and she's working with Gilles at this very present moment.
So we're very proud of her and whatever happens there because she's doing amazing work.
And of course, Donna, that led...
in other places too.
That led to the first book, The Silent Soldiers of Naors, which was a lovely story of 30 plus soldiers from there, which we were able to put together with Gilles' help. Again, we didn't think that this was, and Gilles just said, can we write a book on this? Can we help? And we got together.
And Phil helped with finding us a publisher.
And it was Phil's author, it was Phil's publisher, New Holland, that happened to be the people that were the ones that published the first book, The Silent Soldier of Naors. Now, in that same realm of books, we came across a wonderful gentleman by the name of George Petreau, who is a Melbourne artist, and he was doing magnificent pictures of the soldiers of Vignacour and it got him interested, and he came on one of the tours with us and he also fell in love with the whole story, and we've had a wonderful relationship with George that has led us to other things. And George himself had put together a book called The Art of Sacrifice, which we had been able to get a couple of chapters into. But again, he had a publisher, Big Sky Publishing, Denny and Big Pie Publishing. And of course, when the idea came about to publish the book, who published the book? Big Sky Publishing, all through those initial discussions with George and so on.
I think tying into the synchronistic vein here, it was when we were offered we never said no, we always said yes, and then hung up the phone or walked away and went, oh my God, what have we just agreed to? And there's another lesson. Just take that chance.
It's about saying yes, though, isn't it?
Just say yes when you're offered it, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
What is the
worst?
worst?
You will always regret not taking that next step.
What's the worst that could happen? Because, that pit of your stomach, you think, oh my God, what have we done or what are we doing? But there's excitement in that, and certainly for me, there's a tremendous amount of excitement in that.
Well, there's also, we're helping a lot of people, and I feel very proud of that.
Now, the other
person that we've helped is Tobin.
Now, Tobin's an interesting one because Franco came to us one day after he'd been looking at all our work and everything. He came across a friend who had a grandfather who had been...
Franco alluded to this last week. He saw the photo and recognised...
Harry Saunders.
The backdrop and thought, oh, I've seen that before.
A friend of his, Tobin, his grandpa, Harry Saunders, was in a photograph that was a Tullier photograph. And again, unbelievable synergy that through our director, we had found another...
And I think Franco,
soldier.
You could have knocked Franco.
Oh, Franco was beside himself.
Because he realised, wow, it is real. And so he was, and I think that the universe has planned this, and the boys up there have decided that this needed to happen for Franco too, to know the buzz that happens when you are presented with a person who says, here's a photo, just found it, don't know, and you look at it and you go, oh my God, that's a Tullier
And
photo.
Franco feels as though he was responsible for identifying it, doesn't he? Because he brought it to us and said, this is a Tullier photo.
And so we should, because that's the way it will go now. We pass it on to others, so they pass it on.
And now another one, Donna, that's interesting also is we've been working with Post Lounge for post-production, and they've done some incredible things in the movie world, and they have signed on to actually work
Based
with
in
us.
West End in Brisbane.
And they've signed on to work with us, but quite amazing, Kurt Royan, who is one of the principals of Post Lounge, comes from Childers. And guess whose grandpa was a World War One soldier?
In Fromell?
Is it
Fromell?
There's another relative.
There's
There's a couple of them, but one of his other relatives may, in fact, be buried very close to another grave in Fromell, which is another thing, Donna.
Well, yeah, I thought that I only had Mackenzie and Hurahan, and because of our work with Lambers down in Melbourne, Lambers and all of his research said we had some information through Family Tree. And as those people in your family who do all the researching and the dates, etc., up came this name of Roger Coffey.
It hadn't been there for the 5 years.
I've only just noticed it.
It had appeared on one of the websites as a relative of Cameron Mackenzie.
Only because I think somebody was involved
with watching ours and then saw that,
found my family
put it
stuff
together.
and went into researching a little bit more and said, well, there's another fellow who actually was killed in Fromell and his body was never found, and his name is on the memorial there. So when we were there last in France, we went and saw Roger's name.
Roger Coffey.
And came home and thought nothing more of it. And then Lambert said, he's there.
He's one of them. He's one
said,
of the
I know what he did.
lost
I know the trench.
soldiers of Fromell.
I know where he moved. He's one of those bodies that they have exhumed, and you must chase up DNA. So after to and froing, very not easily, but a few conversations, and I recently have just given DNA samples for Roger, sent them back to England, and I'm hoping that something positive comes out of that, and I can go in and inter Roger with all of those wonderful people.
But again,
who are working there.
what an amazing story that it's come up out of nowhere. You all of a sudden are the only relative on the maternal side that could
this
probably.
Is my great grandmother's sister's son. So, yeah.
But again,
I would never have met him living
never
at the same time.
But again, we've got another link. And look, if Donna, if we can be involved in Fromell in identifying this guy finally and giving a grave, again, it's all worth that story.
I think for me, I've had three opportunities. One who's already buried there, encased. One, and that's Mackenzie, who was a dairy farmer and a Scot who is buried in Le Peuplière encased, along with many other Scots and surrounded by cows. And that was the first photo we put up on our first podcast. Those cows surrounded his grave. So I felt like he was home.
Yeah.
Then I have Hurahan, who's on the Menin Gate, and we're unsure whether he was killed at Polygon Wood or on the Menin Road, and his body has never been found.
And there's another one that came home, William. William came home as well.
Yeah, that was his brother.
Yeah.
And he was the one I said earlier that Mum had said suffered from a lot of PTSD and wouldn't talk about it, as was the case for most. And then now I've got Roger Coffey, so somebody who I've supplied DNA, even though it's 100 years plus later, that I could identify him. So I've been really blessed to have 3 opportunities to be involved in these men's lives 100 plus years later. And like I said, if we all lived in Queensland together now, I probably would never have met them or gone to see them.
Never at all.
But they're reaching out
part of a family
to me now, and it means a lot.
And of course, along the way, we've found Michael Fechner, the driver from Württemberg, who is a relative of mine of some sort. But we know...
Although I think Fechner's like Smith.
It was spelt the same way, Donna, and it's Michael. I'm taking that.
But even that was a synchronistic afternoon where the German graves are quite morose and very sad and grey, and it was a cloudy afternoon and we were surrounded by a lot of hides. There were people hunting and you could hear the shooting at pheasants and whatever. And we'd been looking for this man's name, Michael Fechner, in this German grave for an hour, and I just said, enough. There were thousands and thousands of bodies there. And then Michael went to a mass grave and
picked him up straight away.
Saw a name just as we were leaving. And it, you know, you just walk away with that and you go, okay, I hear you, I acknowledge you, and I thank you. And I will move forward telling your story to as many people as I can. So synchronicity has led us to all of these occasions. And having said that, next week, school holidays, we are off to Vignacourt to a wedding of one of the teens. And that is such an honour for us.
We met these
Hugo
teens.
Came over when he was 15. He's now getting married at 25.
We met him, and we are now going to his wedding. We were fortunate enough to be blessed to be going to his wedding. There's a whole lot of activities. It's Heritage Week in Vignacourt. We'll be doing a lot of things, and we've got a couple of really interesting things that hopefully we can let you know about next time we chat.
When they're real. But we'll try to do a cross from Vignacourt if we can.
And let you know a little bit about
Valerie.
No, we could let Valerie come and have a chat. I'd love to let her have a chat and tell us a bit about the story.
It's nothing better to hear a French accent.
Over a glass of champagne, Donna.
Oh, we might take local champagne. North of France, not as much as champagne, but I'll find something. I
hope that I get a chance to maybe, in a quiet moment, see either Louis or Antoinette again, as I have... Maybe. I claim and I believe that I saw Antoinette roaming around the courtyard one time we were there not that long ago.
And I think one of the excitements for me is to show our daughter Isabel this little village that she's never been to and that she's working around the ridges with. So maybe as a mother who's growing older, maybe that's our legacy to leave in her hands to deal with as she gets older.
Well, I think Donna, we have looked at this whole project as a legacy project. We are ordinary people, as we've said,
and we are working full time in our teaching position.
But I tell you,
we're very happy and very thankful.
But I tell you, the stories that we can tell to the kids in our charge as teachers now. Also, I use the stories that we have. Certainly, Anzac Day this year was wonderful, and different things come up that we can use it. And I think that those stories are resonating as well.
Well, I think researching those Australian soldiers in the Vignacourt Cemetery that aren't acknowledged very much because it's not Pozières and it's not Villebretonneau, it's behind the line stuff. And my little preppies know a lot about Anzac Day, Armistice Day, and they want to know some more stories too. So I just feel very proud and very honoured that we've had that opportunity.
And these synchronistic tales that we've told you this afternoon, hopefully they give you a little bit of an appetite to believe, to stop and think, and to take everything in that comes, because it all means something.
And usually your first reaction is, no, I can't. Put that aside for the next... And I say to you, in the next few days, you will probably get something from somebody, an offer or a suggestion. Take my advice, put the fear aside and actually say, you know what, maybe.
Why not?
Take a chance.
Take a chance. Guys, have a lovely afternoon. I hope you enjoy the stories we've told, and we look forward to talking to you from France next. And don't forget, you can watch us listen to us on Podbean or on our InterCCG YouTube channel, and drop us a line at fecos@bigpond.com to tell us what you think.
And it may not be next Sunday because we may be travelling at that time, so it probably Monday by the time we arrive there.
It doesn't matter. You'll hear us from the north of France in Picardy in downtown Vignacourt. We might even get you from the bar, the lovely Tobacco.
Oh my God.
That's a hoot.
It goes off.
There'll be champagne there, Donna.
Oh, I don't know. I think they like their what's the
Oh, the Calvador. Calvador. It is. It's like rocket fuel. Yeah. Guys, have a lovely weekend. Thanks again for listening to us. Thank you to the 200 people that have downloaded and continue to follow us.
Tell some more friends.
Tell some more. Let them know. Great story. Why not?
Take a chance.